This time on Captain Chaos Laboratory, we're going to be working on this. I have no idea who it's made by or anything. It didn't come in a box, it just came in bubble wrap. Just says made in China. It draws a little over a third of an amp. It's 4.5 volts. And it was manufactured in July something. Or it was made in 07. There's not much on here. I do not know anything about this. This was sent in as part of I got from this one person. I received multiple boxes with multiple pieces inside. So I had to make an adapter. You can see it's cut right there. Because I couldn't find an adapter in the box, but I didn't want to uproot everything and spill it. So just pulling out one piece at a time. But anyhow, looking at it, it takes the small barrel jack right there, and the off-on switch is pushed inside. Yeah, never a good thing. But when I plug it in, it does light up. Let's see. And I don't know if you can hear it. I can hear the motor. Nothing's happening. Also, the lights came unglued. They were just hanging inside when I took it out. So, first things first, let's unplug it so I can stop listening to that motor. I'm going to turn off the power. And this free spins and moves around a lot. So, on the bottom, I have 1, 2, 3 screws, it appears. I don't think there's any inside the feet. Nope, they're inside the feet too, so I got 6 screws. So we're going to start there. There's actually some other recessed holes, which also have screws. Holy smokes. I'm going to take off the 6 outer screws first, before I touch the 4 inner screws. So on the bottom, in case you have this piece, there's 6 screws right here, and then there's these 4 deeper screws, as you can see these holes there. So I'm going to start with just the outers. Never mind. There's no screws in the feet. They're plastic rivets. So there's only 3 outer screws. Well, I cut the time in half already. Alright, so that just separates this outer ring, but I still can't do anything with it. So I am going to now remove the 4 inner screws, which are recessed deeply. Let's see if this is long enough to reach them. Holy smokes, it is. Now I just can't get them to come out. Okay. Oh wow, those things are really tight. I thought it was just because maybe the battery was getting weak, but apparently them bad boys are in there. I wonder if they may have glued them in. Let's see. Slightly bigger screwdriver, a little bit more torque. There we go. That one's loose. That one's loose. Yeah, they're cracking. So they're just really tight, or they're possibly glued in. There we go. That one's loose. That one's loose. Alright, so if you have this piece, the outer four, you can, the outer ones you can leave. You just need to take the inners out. Now here's the off-on switch. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Kind of dangling right there by the fence. And I see the motor. There's not a lot of slack on these wires, but the gearbox and motor assembly appears to be held on with 4 screws. So let's take these 4 screws out. Technically, of the 4 screws, you technically probably only need to remove 2 completely and loosen the other 2, because they're called slip slots, where you can slide the mechanism in. Let's see if it works. Nope. So they're probably just using the slip slots for alignment, meaning to keep it square so they don't have to make oval holes. Trying to see what it's stuck on. It's stuck on the drive mechanism. How do we get this drive mechanism off? Let's see if it's just pressed on. I'm going to pry on it a little bit and see if I get any motion. Yep. It's just wedged on. Okay, so here is the drive section. I'm going to rotate this so the train is up so I can fit this better on the edge. There we go. So, and what I mean by slip slots, as you can see, those are just slots. So you can just slide it in and slide it out. They probably use it so you can align this and you have a bigger surface area to mount the screws. As far as this goes, there it is. I'm going to plug it in right now and see if this rotates at all. So I'll give it some power, and so the motor is turning, but that is not. And just so you know, with no load on it, this thing is pulling a minuscule amount of power at 4.5 volts. Actually, I'm not even running it at full 4.5. It's at like 4.3. So let's open the gearbox. Screws are out of the way, and let's open that. Well, I see some busted plastic in here, and this motor is not touching a dang thing. That's weird. So let's examine these teeth. That one looks okay. That one looks okay. This one has all the plastic on it. This is the one that apparently might be chewed up. There's plastic on it, but I don't see any damaged teeth. Oh, there's the damaged teeth. Just had to wipe the grease off. So that's why nothing spins. It's probably because it got brittle. I don't know if you can see, it got teeth and then there's no teeth. So there's no teeth right in here. They're all gone. Kind of makes it hard for it to spin. Are these the same gears? Yes, they are. And, yep. So these are the same gears, and you can see that the one that's broke is orange and the one that's not broke is still white. I'm wondering if this one just got hot. I don't know how or why or is defective, but usually when they start turning this color orange, they get brittle. And since I have it open, just to verify this worm gear is turning correctly, meaning that it's rotating and it won't stop when I put pressure on it. It's rotating, and I'm going to put some pressure on it with my fingers. I can stop the motor because it is a weak motor. It's just the same motor as Lemax uses. But it's not slipping, and it's stalling when it's supposed to. So I stall this thing, and it jumps up to 1/3 of an amp and drops the voltage down to a little over about 3.8. So the motor's doing what it's supposed to do under stall speed. Oh, need a gear. Let's see what I got. It would be amazing if I just pulled it out on the first try. It would also be a first. Yeah, there we go. That was fast. Let's put this thing back together again and see how it works. Also helps if I don't put the broken gear back in. So, new gear, old gear, drive gear. I'm kind of impressed they don't over lubricate this, whatever brand this is. Motor. And the motor is held in with nothing more than just the grooves and the plastic, so there's no screws. It's just held in with a clamping motion, which is nice. But it does use a lot of screws around the outside edges to keep it anchored. So it's a trade-off. There's no screws through the motor, but you have 6 screws to hold the gearbox and the motor in place. So, I mean, it's not horrible. It's a pretty simplistic idea. Let's see, I need to turn the motor this way. Hey, the sticker fell off. So this motor is this is the motor sticker. It's a Technium motor. It's an RT300P. Rated for 3 volts, 11,420 RPM. So it says 3 volts, but I'm sure unless there's a circuit board inside this piece here, it's probably getting the full 4.5. A lot of motors like Lemax that say 4.5, they're actually 6-volt motors, and hell, some of them are 9-volt motors. Hobby motors have a range. 3 volts is the minimum stall. Anything below 3 volts, these motors don't turn. But I'm sure, because it's 11,420 RPM, the motors in Lemax are 11,400. So as far as the standard SRF 300CA or RF 300CA, depending on the manufacturer, I don't think you're going to have an issue. They'll be the same. And Lemax motors are rated at the 11,400 RPM at 6 volts. If you know that Lemax is generally 4.5. So you're not even getting the full 11,000 RPM at the partial voltage that the motor is rated for. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp this thing in tight like it's supposed to be. And then I'm going to do a test on it real fast, make sure that we're good. And there's that last screw. And last one. There we go. And plug it in. Make sure that spins. That's spinning now. I'm hoping you can see it. There we go. I might have to turn the brightness up on this light. It seems a little dark on the viewfinder. It's plenty bright to me, but there we go. That's probably too bright. That's better. Alrighty. Power off. This thing is drawing 1/10 of an amp, or 100 milliamps right now. Again, no load, meaning it's not driving any of the mechanism to make this thing spin. Power off. And the reason I'm giving you the amperage readings is in case you have this piece and you need to fix it. But it's also, so if you lose your power adapter, you know what your minimums are. Now comes the fun part, trying to line up the square hole with the square peg, and you can't see it because it barely sticks out. So little fidgety here. Come on. Reassembly is always so much fun. There we go. All right. Stay. And one. Just gonna move that. Two, three, and four. Alright, I'm just going to try and hold this up while we power it on and see if everything spins. Try center it. There we go. Lights are on. Fiber optics are on. Oh, that's got some torque. My finger got caught between the house and the train. Stupid me, it rotates. Put my hand in the rotating path. So, now we just, and right now with a load it's still only pulling, I'll put up exactly at 4.5 volts, 0.1 amps, or 1/100 of an amp. So if you lost your power supply, a small I think it's a 3 millimeter or 3.5 millimeter barrel, as long as the AC adapter head is, say, 150 milliamps or higher, you should be good. You always want a buffer. Never run it at max. Don't buy a 100 milliamp adapter for a 100 milliamp motor. The adapter will get hot because you're running it at 100%. So you need a buffer. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this thing started on reassembly. I'm going to check in here where the power goes, and it was plastic staked in. So the power plug used to be staked in with 2 plastic pins. They are both sheared off, so that's awesome. So we'll see if we can hot glue it in and hot glue all these lights back on. Let's see if I can get this thing in. So I have it on the stakes, and hopefully it'll stay. And now we just need to heat this bad boy up. So this one wasn't horrible, whatever it is. It has a broken gear. That's a thrust washer. I don't think it needs it. I mean, it's working, 1, and 2. I think that's why I broke those teeth. So I looked at when I was putting it together with my magnifiers, that worm gear puts a lot of pressure on this, and I think this was pushing on it. I think the tolerances are off, and now we have a broken gear. The gear is from the generic hobby gear kit I get from Amazon, and I will link it below. But this kit here is 4 gear kits mixed together, because I use so many of them. But I'll put the 2 kits I usually buy below in the link from Amazon. That way, if you want to buy a hobby gear kit, you can get it. And we're going to get this thing glued and screwed back together. And then I'll show you what this looks like in low light. It actually has some decent lighting on it. The LEDs look nice. They're not overpowered. They're dim, but they're not too dim to be hard to see, and they're not overly bright to overpower the system. So they're not running them at full power, which is really smart. There's fiber optics all throughout this thing. I didn't even notice that till I just stared at it a minute ago. There's fiber optics on the sign here. There's fiber optics down there. So it's got some fiber optics in it. Which means inside this base, it's got 3 screws. 1, 2, 3. Yep, 3 screws once you remove the motor assembly. The wires that go inside, I thought just ran the LEDs. Apparently there's a fiber optic bundle in there that probably runs off of a LED versus a pinwheel. It doesn't make any sense to put a pinwheel inside here. I mean, an LED would be cheaper with a piece of heat shrink or electrical tape to hold it to the fiber optic loom. So I see no reason to disassemble it to possibly break something, so we'll leave it as it is, and if it needs work, we'll just take it apart again. But at the moment, it just needed a gear and some hot glue, which unfortunately takes a couple of minutes to get up to temperature. But once it gets up to temperature, it gets really hot. Battery's good. I have no idea what this is, but it's on there. It looks like a piece of melted resin. It's weird. I don't see any melted resin. Yeah, I see some glue forming. Let's get the... I never use the first drop that comes out because I notice it's never as liquidy or strong as the second. So usually the first drop I just wipe off. All right. Just gotta hold it. I like the Sure Bonder. I've mentioned this a ton of times. It bonds really well. It takes a little bit longer to get hot than the other brands. It takes a little bit longer to cool down because of that. But it once it hardens, cures, cools down, whatever you want to call it, because everybody seems to call it something different. It holds. And when I say it holds, it holds. It is great. It's I'd say it's almost as strong as super glue. Of course it's not, but and of course if you get it hot with heat gun, heat pen, heat stick, it will start to separate so you can take things apart. Oh, still moves. On my finger. All right. So that's now staying. Gotta fix those lights. And I don't know if the 4 pegs are the same distance or not from each other, but they weren't lining up very well that way, so I just rotated them 90. It might be equidistant. There we go. There we go. There's a lot of torque, or because of the whatever was holding in place, or my battery's dying. That one doesn't want to go in at all. Let's try this one. Keeps falling off the end of the screwdriver. Come on. There we go. Let's try this one again. Alright, so the screws that hold the ring on are not equidistant. I figured they would have been because of the wiring for the off-on switch. Can't go that way because the wires are stretched. So. Come on. Since my electric's dying, I'm just using a standard screwdriver to make sure these are snug. And I'll get to those two screws in a minute. I don't want to make this video an hour long just to do this. Yeah, so one of these fences was loose when I got it. This one. So I'm going to hot glue these lights on. It shouldn't take too long for this to heat up since it's only been off for a couple of minutes. And then we'll turn it on and see what it looks like with low and no light. A half an hour just to replace a gear. Jeez. Come on, there we go. Make sure the switch works. Switch works. All right, get some lights off. So here it is with just some background lighting. You can see the fiber optics inside the entire house. And now we're going to go full lights off. There we go. So, like I said, the lights really aren't that bright. The red ones are really bright on the camera for some reason. But the blues and the greens and the yellow and the red isn't that bright. It's just enough lighting to illuminate it. All the little dots you see on the house are the fiber optics, which are slowly changing colors. So it could have a pinwheel, but most likely it just has a color changing LED inside of it. There's your top view. There are no lights in the back. So that's your dark spot. Lights are flickering because I'm moving the power source that's over there. So it's moving the wires. So, yeah, we got RGB yellow. Red, green, blue, and yellow lights. So there we go. Lights are coming back. 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to put those screws in now that I know that it's fully functional. I don't have to take it back apart because the switch is bad or something, meaning a wire broke when I assembled it, when I twisted the base. And we'll put this back in this bubble wrap and put it back in the box and pull out the next one. So until the next repair, have a good one.